Good morning, everyone. This is the June 10th, 2026 Philadelphia Art Commission meeting. My name is Ian Litwin, here today on behalf of Art Commission Director Catherine Liss. This meeting is being recorded. By attending the meeting, you are giving consent to be recorded. The agenda and meeting materials can be found on the public meetings page of the Philadelphia Art Commission website. You may use the QR code on the screen to access the webpage. A link to the meeting recording will also be posted on the website once available. The agenda for today's meeting is listed for reference on this slide. We will be reviewing one item for administrative review, followed by one item for concept review, and one item for final review. Please note you are currently in room 18029. The two doors along the side wall to your left, these doors lead to the elevator lobby. Restrooms are in the lobby across from the elevators. In the event of an emergency, loudspeaker announcements will provide safety information. If you do not hear an announcement, please follow the directions of security officers and staff.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Raed Nasser, Chairperson of the Art Commission. I'm going to go through some meeting format. The next few slides will take us through the sequence of today's meeting. Full review items will start with applicant's presentation. Next slide, please. The commission discussion will follow the applicant presentation. Public comments will follow commissioner's discussion. We will hear from commentators in the room first, followed by those participants virtually. The commissioners will both following public comments and discussions. Members of the public, you will have the opportunity to comment on agenda items. Questions and comments will be here for each presentation. You might participate in either in person, online, or by phone. If you have any difficulties participating, staff are available to assist you. Please be respectful of others and limit your comments to 2 minutes. Thank you. Yeah.
Commissioners, good morning. Thank you for joining us today. I'm going to call on you one at a time. Please introduce yourself. Please remember to speak directly into your microphone. Commissioner Marnie Burns.
Present. Thank you.
Commissioner Matthew Kenyatta.
Present, everyone.
Commissioner Troy Leonard.
Present.
Commissioner Rebecca Segal.
Present.
Commissioner Carmen and Rayed.
Good morning. Present.
The Art Commission will be voting by roll call. I will ask commissioners for their vote verbally and individually at the end of each agenda item. Please remember to state your name before making comments so that people who are not here in person can tell who is speaking. I will now pass the microphone to the commission chair to call the meeting to order.
Okay, we will now call the meeting to order and announce a quorum. We'll proceed with the matters on the agenda. We're gonna vote on the recommendation of the Sign and Street Committee. Does anybody has any questions, concerns? Any public comments? So this is gonna be a consensus vote. All in favor say aye.
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 Any nays? Okay, ayes have it. Thank you. Ian?
This is the item for administrative approval. So this is Indigo Ike Smart Kiosks. This is for various locations throughout the city. Bicycle Transit Systems, contracted by the city's Office of Transportation Infrastructure Systems, is seeking administrative approval to deploy Ike Smart City Kiosks at 10 locations. The Art Commission provided final approval for the deployments of Ike Smart City Kiosks on Indigo bike share stations with the understanding that locations will be reviewed administratively. The Ike Smart City Kiosk is an interactive digital kiosk that will be attached to the Indigo bike share station. The kiosks generate advertising revenue to support the operations and expansion of Indigo, while also delivering public service information, resources, and local art. 10 new kiosks at existing bike share stations are proposed in this submission. We recommend these 2 locations be disapproved at this time. Second and Race, the proposed kiosk blocks existing wayfinding signage. And Fourth and Oregon, the proposed location appears likely to cause conflict between bicyclists and drivers using the gas station. We recommend approval for 8 stations: Civic Center and Service, Baltimore and 40th, 45th in Baltimore, 22nd in Fairmount, 18th in Washington, 22nd in Federal, Ridge and Heritage, and 42nd in Woodland. The locations recommended for disapproval can be resubmitted with revisions at a later date.
Commissioners, do you guys have any questions of any of the sites?
Yeah, I just have one question. So in the overall submittal form, it says that there's 10 new locations, all at existing Indigo bike share stations. So are they new locations or are they not?
So the Ike would be a new installation. The bike share station's already there.
Okay,
So it's like an additional pylon.
got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And am I correct in understanding also that some replace prior models of information posts?
So it depends on the age of the station. So the
Right.
older bike share stations have a larger pylon, the newer ones don't. So it depends on, like, you can see on the individual drawings if they have, like, this is an older one. So there'd be 2. Yeah. Well,
But-
the one is like the brains of the station. The newer ones, they don't have the large pylon, it's much smaller. And then the Ike is an additional, let me see if I can find a good one. See, this is a newer,
I like those.
this is a newer bike share station, so it doesn't have a large pylon, it's just the Ike is on the right.
So what is the reason for leaving the old one?
So the old one is like the brains of the bike share station, so this is an old one. So the existing is in the middle, and then the Ike is on the right.
Right, but all of them don't have that.
I think we
old-
have someone who can help answer.
Thank you.
Yeah, just trying to understand.
Yeah, no problem.
the-
Good
the-
morning.
The mechanics.
Did I explain that right?
You did. Yeah, you did a great job. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Laura Bowles. I'm the planning manager for the Indigo Bike Share System. So when we launched in 2015, we launched with what is considered the second generation of the technology, which has that large brain attached to it. So we cannot, when we use the second generation of technology, we cannot remove that brain. Otherwise, the station will not work. So over time, as this tech is just getting old. It's been out in Philly streets for 10 years. That tech is being replaced with newer tech, but we are not going to scrap all of our existing stations and replace it with the new technology.
Thank you.
James?
Considering you have 2 kiosks now, are they both used for commercial advertising? Or there was some conferences earlier where we were talking about, I think, right, you mentioned about community issues, promoting community business activities. Are they both commercial, or is one relegated to community and the other commercial? Could you define some of that type of activity?
Sure. So we have, some of our stations have 2 different types of advertising. One of them is a digital advertising and the other one is a static advertising. So those are handled slightly differently through our advertising partner. Our both types of technology have the option for community to submit advertising or information about upcoming events that can be placed in there. There are certain stations, for example, where we have an agreement with the adjacent property owner that we do not advertise there at all. And in those stations, we typically put things like IBX branding or information about the Indigo station itself, rather than putting in commercial advertising.
Go ahead.
Any?
Commercial advertising, including community organizations?
Yes, absolutely. Whatever, we have a process that I know Commissioner Rayed is working through right now to get that communities can submit their own information about upcoming events or public art that will then be advertised as part of the slide process that's going on the digital ad panels.
Community events, does that also include City of Philadelphia events?
If they are submitted, as far as I know, yes, they can be. I know that there is a slightly complicated city process that they have to go through. They have to have a city department sponsor the event, there has to be certain amounts of city branding on it. So we have to abide by city advertising laws for things like that. But if the community submits and is interested in putting content up, as long as they work through the process, they can do it.
I think what I mean is, it's someone working with the city about different civic, either affairs or promoting things of the health department or some of the other departments that's informational. If you're not using it for commercial or direct community, then the backup is run something that's beneficial to anybody walking by or getting a bike about the city of Philadelphia and some of the things that we have going on.
So I can tell you that in the past, we have done advertising campaigns with the city. I know during the COVID-19 pandemic, for example, we did city messaging about vaccines. We did city messaging about, social distancing and all those things. So we have done that in the past through our partnership because we work directly through Otis, and we have our Otis partner. We have direct lines of communication with other city agencies.
Laura, last night I was walking on 13 and it's not Locust, the next one. There were 4 ladies from outside the city, and they wanted to use the chair, the bike. And I was walking, and then they says, "Hey, you know how to use this?" It's like, "Just download the app." I was like, "What's this? Which one is this one or this one?" Indigo. And so there is a way that I noticed that there is nothing, maybe something, and it was at night too. That's the thing. Is there a way to tell them, hey, you need to do this easy for them to, because it's kind of weird as I was walking, all 4 ladies, hey, you know what? I was like, it should be there. And then I was like, no, there's nothing in there. So there is an app.
Point of purchase kind of approach, they're still there, but not that.
Okay, so yeah, that happens yesterday. And there was, where are you guys from? And it's like, Oklahoma. I was like, oh, wow, go, welcome to Philadelphia. So.
Yeah, I will say that we're definitely working through that right now because of all of the anticipated additional people coming in for the World Cup, that we are definitely looking at, especially international individuals. So are you referring to they were looking at the kiosk, or were they just looking at a phone?
They were, the only thing I told them, just download the app. It's easier.
Yeah.
It looks like, but you can do that on everything on when you're right there, but there's nothing, tell them online, go download this, download that.
So
I'm
that's
just letting you know that.
Yeah, no, that's definitely helpful. And over time, as we have our kiosks, a lot of them are covered. You can't use them. They have a piece of metal over them so that you can't go in and type in. And a lot of them have stickers on them that say like this, or they give you a QR code. But it's good to know that they don't all have that.
Right. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one question. So, I'm wondering, and I don't know if this is something you can answer, but I'm noticing that these bike stations are put into places that it says meet minimum right-of-way standards for that area. And like I'm saying, the site plans, most of these sites, I noticed there are bike lanes like right by the station. Is that required that there's space, like that there's bike lane space around these stations where they're installed, or are these bike lanes acting almost as kind of like, I don't know, a first mover or of some kind to begin that process? Because I don't see at least on the photos that you provided, let me find the one I saw. I was like, there's no bike lane space around this one. Or
Yeah.
There's like a couple of these. But yeah, do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will say that the speed, the easiest way to explain this is that the speed of installing an Indigo station and the speed of installing a bike lane are not the same thing.
Right. Yeah.
And we, because I work for the private company that runs the Indigo system, only have control over the Indigo station itself. However, I will say that we meet quarterly with the Office of Multimodal Planning to discuss the future bike lanes that are going in throughout the city. And we do our best to plan Indigo stations so that they go in tandem with bike infrastructure.
Okay.
And we do our best to ensure that we do not put bike share stations in locations where people would be tempted to cycle unsafely. So there's certain roads in the city that we just, it's just not a good idea to cycle on them, and we know that. So we try to plan the system in a way that encourages people to use more safe routes.
Thank you. Yeah, and thanks for clarifying. You work for the private company. I don't know why I was thinking
No, I
from the city.
understand.
So the Office of Multimodal Transportation is a better point person to know whether that timeline, the timelines are aligned or not.
Yeah, they're the ones who handled the restriping of roads and the installations of things like bike lanes.
Thanks.
Informational question.
Go ahead, James.
Just an informational question. Is there either an app or so that someone can, yeah, I don't bike, okay, bad knee, all right. Is there an app or something that somebody can hit and they see a map of Philadelphia and the preferred streets with bike lanes and so forth?
That's a great idea. I know that over time, Google has made it so it will recommend roads that have better bike infrastructure. If you choose the bike icon when you're using Google Maps, you can choose roads that have bike infrastructure on them. And I know that the Philly Bike Project has maps that they are constantly updating that have that. Whether there's specifically an app that does it, I don't know, but it would be really cool if it existed.
Okay.
All right, any more comments? Public comments? All right, this is another consensus vote. All in favor? Oh, I wait. Sorry.
Consensus vote?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, let's have it. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you, Laura.
commissioners.
We have a presentation for final review. This is the 59th Street Bridge.
Question,
Yeah,
when were they last here?
Ryan Sen from the Streets Department is here, and
Sen?
then we have someone in the virtual audience
2
as a
months ago.
presenter also.
2 or more. 2? Good job.
Hello, Commissioners. Good morning. My name is Ryan Sen. I'm Streets Department's Chief Bridge Engineer. And virtually joining is Matt Ward from the consultant bridge design team. Also joined by some others from the city staff who are helping progress this project. So 59th Street, we presented for conceptual review back in November of last year. There were many very good points raised. We had a bit of homework to do, primarily to go back out to the community and make sure that some of these topics that you raised last time we were here are fully thought through and fully addressed. So that's what we've spent the last several months doing. We're back here to kind of present on that. We've prepared a slideshow. The first half of it, I would say, is what you saw last time. The latter half of it addresses the concerns that were raised. So if we're able to go through the slideshow, do I have control of this here? Oh, okay. Okay, great.
So I want to interrupt you 1 second. So this was presented in November, and by the code, they have to come back within 60 days. Is that okay? We'll go. Okay, thank you.
That's a good point. Good point. Okay, so here was some of the supporting documentation addressing the specific topics that were brought up. I'm going to go to the slides, and when we get to the slides that deal with the issues. So stop me if I'm going through it too fast. I'll go right back to the beginning. 59th Street Bridge, I believe we're all familiar with the location up in the Overbrook and Winfield neighborhoods. Here's a picture today on the left side, a picture from around when it was constructed back in the 1920s. Here is the existing cross section. This is all material that we shared last time. Existing photos of the bridge showing why this bridge is in poor condition and the project needs to occur. More photos showing the level of deterioration that we're seeing out there. This was a rendering showing the cross section that's proposed, showing that it'll operate similar to how it operates today, except that we're going to widen the sidewalks, designate them a shared use path so that cyclists and pedestrians can use them. The current sidewalks are 8 foot wide. In the proposed condition, they're going to be 9 foot wide. These were showing the different architectural treatments that we're proposing, the fractured fin finish on the abutments down there, and the color that we were selecting here was that matte kind of beige color. These were some slides showing how it would look from the pedestrian experience, showing all the different features. And some of these are subject to what we're about to talk about, so just flipping through existing. So now we get to the first concern was related to graffiti deterrence. And it's a great point. We believe that we're going to be providing surfaces on the four quadrants of the bridge for future artwork. We are going to be adding an item to the contract to apply anti-graffiti coating, and that will help make it so that the graffiti can be removed much quicker. When it comes to the wall materiality, you wanted us to look into different materials to face the walls and to face the bridge. And I think it was a little bit tied back to the objective of preventing graffiti. So with the first topic, we're addressing the graffiti by applying that graffiti coating, graffiti removal coating. But then when it comes to the wall materiality, we did look into applying a kind of stone finish. And what we were finding is that in order to do it over the railroad, what you have to apply to the inside face, if we were to apply real stone to the inside face, we would want to apply real stone to the outside face, but that becomes a problem with the railroad to make sure that the stones don't come loose over time and fall onto the railroad down below. We looked at form liners and painted form liners, but we didn't feel that that was solving the initial problem of graffiti coating, and it might actually complicate things with addressing the graffiti if it does get graffitied. And additionally, it honestly doesn't look as good as the natural stone in the first place. So we believe that staying with the concrete barrier is the way to go, and just beefing up the graffiti protection, selecting a color that we know Clip has in stock and can be painted over without making it look horrible. You see all over the place where we try to get close with the color, but we don't quite get it. So now we're selecting colors that we know we have in stock, and we're supplementing that with the graffiti protection. There were some great questions about the maintainability of the acrylic panels. We reached out to the manufacturer, and we got a whole bunch of information from them, which I believe is included in the documents that we provided. The summary of it is that if the acrylic panels get graffitied, there's a solvent that can be applied. You let it on there for a couple of minutes, and then you power wash it off, and it comes out. I think there's an example of showing what that process looks like and how before, during, and after the graffiti removal process, I think that was all provided. When it comes to abrasion, these acrylic panels are abrasion resistant. And so they're not going to crack and they're not going to fall apart if a piece of gravel gets thrown up against it. They're going to be clear, so they let sunlight through. It's not going to cast odd shadows on the bridge. It'll create a much more open feel for the bridge users who are crossing the bridge. And it also holds up well to the weathering salt, to the salts that we apply in the winter time. So we think that this is a very durable solution. It's been used on 41st Street Bridge and several PennDOT projects in this area. Thank you. There's a question about pedestrian lighting, ped scale lighting. We are showing here the lighting contours that show that we're providing the 2-foot candles all the way across the whole corridor from Lancaster all the way to Upland Way. We are going to be providing ped scale lighting like that you see there, but it's going to be more of that closer to black color as opposed to the green color. And so yes, here you can see the 2-foot candles being provided all the way across, and the lighting levels here are going to be similar to the lighting levels that you experience when you walk across the JFK Boulevard over 20th, 21st, 22nd, and approach the 30th Street station. This is what I was talking about earlier, that there's going to be dedicated area on all 4 quadrants of the bridge for future artwork. We did reach out to the community. So after talking here in November, we coordinated with SEPTA. We got to the bottom of a couple of things about student access. We then went to the community 2 times in April, once at Overbrook High School, and that was in April 8th. And on April 30th, we went on the other side of the bridge in the Winfield community to Masteryman Charter Elementary School. And we presented to the community both times. The general consensus was that they understand the project is overdue and needed. There were the concerns that you raised about student access during construction. The bridge is going to be closed for 2 years, 26 months. And we are able to say now that any student who walks across the bridge will be eligible for a SEPTA key card during construction. So they will be able to take the SEPTA, I believe it's the 62 or the G, sorry, the G route that's up there. Yeah, the G. And the specific detour route of the G is going to be determined by SEPTA as we get closer to construction. But the route, the detour route will make all the students, everybody who walks will be eligible for a key card. They will be able to get that through their school, and their school will coordinate with the school district, will coordinate with the Department of Ed on all of that. Yes.
Yeah. So the bridge is going to be closed for 2 years? The
Yes.
reason why I ask that is traveling to church on Sundays on City Avenue, you have a bridge over by Bala, and it's down to 1 lane, and boy, is it something. They didn't close it, so why the difference? And it's over, sorry, it's over a railway, so
Right.
what's the difference? That I understand that I mean, I see the guys out there, they're dealing with the utilities, you see the big pipes with whatever's going through it. Could you explain why you closed this one, but not that one, or you didn't consider maybe keeping this open and doing one half so that traffic, such as the buses or somebody walking, would still be. Explain the difference in those two projects.
Yeah, of course. It's a great question. It's something we grappled with for a long time on this project. Originally, our plan was going to be to stage it like what PennDOT did on their project over Ballast Station over there. What we found was that PennDOT project is one span, so it's just one beam going. It's one span going across, sitting on abutments. 59th Street Bridge is much longer, so it sits. We're going to need many more supports in order to do that kind of approach. We needed to put big support towers down at track level on Amtrak's property and on SEPTA's property, which we could do. But once they're down there, it becomes very difficult to get back to them on a moment's notice in order to fix something. These towers are known to kind of settle a little bit over time, and they would need to get tweaked and kind of tuned up every so often. So we were not very comfortable with the risk of having a situation where we go through all of this effort, we put these towers down at track level, we would have thereby extended the project from a 2-year to a 4-year project. And there's the very high possibility that we would have needed to close pedestrian and vehicular access anyway in order to find time to go down to track level and tune up these supports. So basically, we weren't comfortable with what would have been necessary in order to maintain traffic for vehicles or for pedestrians. So for that reason, we switched from the 4-year project to the 2-year project, but it does require a full closure. I'll also mention that during the 4-year project, if we were going to maintain vehicles, there was still going to be a 2-year period where the bridge was going to be closed to vehicles. So it would have only, it's a big improvement, but it would have only provided for pedestrian access for those 2 years and at the expense of drawing out the project for 4 years instead of 2.
You guys are the master.
Somehow the answer lies in the budget. All right.
It wasn't, I'll say it was an engineering and a public safety concern that led us to switch from the 2-phase to the single phase being full closure. But we have adequate budget on this project thanks to federal and state and city sources.
You're the architect.
Yes. I have a design question. Your renderings, they look very nice, but they're somewhat conceptual, only because it's hard to understand the detail of the materials that are being used. And if I can just ask you to clarify again, the bridge itself is concrete? Is that the sort of proposed material?
The steel, the girders that support the concrete deck are going to be weathering steel.
Understood.
And then everything else is going to be concrete, yes.
Is it poured in place concrete or
Yes.
precast concrete? It's poured in place concrete.
Yeah, it's going to be cast in place concrete, yep.
So when I look at your elevations, it looks seamless. You know, I don't understand, you know, where the joints are or the logic behind sort of the poured in place concrete. It would be helpful to understand sort of how that looks. In particular, I mean, are there capstones? Is there a joint that's running across the top, a horizontal joint? Are the tops of the piers sloped to shed water? What is the detail of the piers that have the light fixtures? Right now, they're sort of just stuck on top, but is there a detail that we can understand how that light fixture actually is attached to the cap of the pier? So I think, you know, some additional detail, maybe an enlarged elevation of a portion of the bridge to help understand how all that works would be very helpful. And I think it would also add to the character of the elevation. Right?
That's a great point. Many of those details are included in the engineering drawings that we're preparing. You're right that they're not really shown here. As far as the joints, the bridge is going to be a 3-span continuous beam bridge. So there's not going to be like vertical joints over top of the piers. It will all be one continuous pour across. The pour is going to be, they're going to set the beams and then they're going to pour the concrete deck. So that's going to be one pour. And then there's going to be a V-notch between the concrete deck and the concrete sidewalks. So the concrete sidewalks will be another pour. And then the third pour is going to be for the barriers and the pilasters that support the pedestrian scale lighting. But we have details of that. Those are engineering drawings. We're happy to provide those. We just didn't have them here in the rendering.
Go ahead, James.
Early on in your discussion, I think I don't know what slide it is, but it has wall materiality on it. I noticed over the years that when PennDOT does bridges, a lot of them are with this kind of prefab stone kind of, or either pressed into concrete type of stone. Looking at the bridge on that slide, there's going to be a lot of graffiti on the walls, and I know you said clip up, just come out, paint and paint and paint. Your answer about the using the I'll just call it precast stone panel. Looking at that bridge elevation, the height from sidewalk to the top before the acrylic panel, it looks like it might be 4 feet or something like that. That would be on both sides then, or 5 feet on the other side, because it's got the length of the or the width of the beam area, something like that. So we're really not talking about, you know, like 2 sections of panels. When you look at a lot of bridges, it's almost like a PennDOT standard, you know, that form of stone that's pressed into the concrete or something like that. Had that been thought to use that type of finish that way? I think just by seeing stone versus, I'll call the material that's the concrete material, like a blank canvas for a graffiti artist. Could you share your thought or the department's thoughts on that?
Well, yes, we did look into that. We've used something similar on other projects. It requires accent painting and coming through and painting all of the joints, which is just it's just a time, like it's just an expensive time. But if that gets graffitied, then there's not a whole lot that the department can do to restore it back to its original accent colors. Yes, like that stone, like that panel on the left. If we used formwork to recreate the look of stone, and then come through and paint it different colors and paint the mortar joints, when that gets graffitied, somebody would have to come back and recreate all those accents, and it just doesn't seem like something that we would be able to do. More likely what would happen at that time is it would get painted over, all constant with one color, what we have in stock, or it would not be able to get painted in the first place. Just that was our concern, was that I agree with you, it will deter people from graffitiing more than the blank canvas look, but once it does get graffitied, it's much more difficult to remove it than the blank canvas side.
I think there's some type of a coating, anti-graffiti coating that you can put over brick that's been used. If you consult with CLIP or those parts of the city government that deal with that, there's a product out there that basically property owners use to wash down graffiti, and might not restore it 100%, but basically every time it gets tagged, it's not that much of a level. But like I said, that's a blank canvas, and it just says tag me, please.
You get that?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
we are applying that anti-graffiti coating to the concrete in our proposal here.
Wait a minute. So you've got the anti-graffiti material that you're going to put on the concrete, but you can't put it on the stone?
Well, yes, we could put it on a stone finish, a form liner finish. Yes, we could put it on that
So
too.
that was my point. Then why not go with the stone? It's not like you're doing multiple panels and you've got a lot of joints. It looks like it might be just one set panel that rhythmically just goes along the stretch of the wall.
I think the issue is if we assume that the bridge is going to be tagged, what is the lesser of two evils? Do you go with a material that can very easily be cleaned and repainted, or a material that may look a little better in the beginning, but eventually becomes very difficult to clean and restore to its original condition? And I think they're going with the former. Use a material that, although it may not look the best in the beginning, in the long run, it's going to make for a more durable material that's easier to clean.
So who from CLIP is going to
One thing, can I add?
side of the bridge to paint that? I mean, part of the whole thing of graffiti is put it in places and have people think, how did they get there?
Yeah.
And that's going to be when they see Cool Jim on the other side, how did he get there?
Right.
And then somebody's got to go on that other side with the drains running
Yeah.
and paint it. Again, I think, I share your thoughts there, but you got blank canvas on both sides, whereas even if you did the side that's on the outside, stone,
Mhm. Well, on
I
the,
think it'll give a graffiti artist the easier side, which is just do it on the pedestrian walk side. But
Mhm.
still in all, I think the brick is, or the stone veneer is the appropriate approach to lessen the amount of tagging.
Okay, we have, Matthew Ward had his hand up, speak. Matt?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for commissioners for allowing us to present today. And one thing I wanted to add about this, the the surface here for the protective concrete barrier. We did look, as Ryan indicated, we did look at several options, but also with one thing that, from our approach, providing a student appearance to the barriers would be out of context with the architectural details of the surrounding community. And we felt that introducing a student facing like this would provide a new element to the landscape. And that's kind of like the direction why we went with this versus going with a stone facing, as we were discussing today. I just wanted to add that thought to the conversation.
It doesn't need to
Is
be.
Commissioner James, are you still working through a thought, or can I jump?
Yeah, he's asking, Ian, he's asking if he goes, did he go to the historical commission? Doesn't need to?
we went through the section 106 SHPO coordination, so they looked at the fact that this is over the historic railroad and near the Overbrook High School. So this all got approved through them, through SHPO.
Thank you.
It doesn't go to the city's historical commission.
Yeah.
Bernie, please.
I think I had a clarification question about the anti-graffiti coating and the paint too. When I've used the anti-graffiti coating in the past, it makes it so you can wash off graffiti more easily, but it sounds like you're saying they're also going to paint over it. Those sound like two competing ways to manage graffiti, and so if you painted over it, you pretty much paint over the anti-graffiti coating.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
can you clarify what the actual maintenance process will be and which one?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
The way I said it is confusing. It'll be concrete, and then we'll paint it with an epoxy resin, color that matte finish, and then we'll apply anti-graffiti coating on top of the paint. The anti-graffiti coating will not last forever. The city does not have that anti-graffiti coating in stock. We used to apply that on many bridges, on all of our bridges in the 90s and early 2000s. Eventually, state and Fed found out that we don't have it in stock, so they stopped paying for 95% of it. Right now, this project is funded 80 federal, 15 state, 5% city. So this anti-graffiti coating will be paid for 100% by city funds because the state and Fed they don't participate in that particular item anymore. But we do agree that it's a great thing to add at this particular location. It'll buy us the extra years of easy clean off. Eventually, it will wear away, and then we'll be left with the paint, or hopefully by that time we have it in stock and we can reapply it. But I was just talking about in the longer term, when the anti-graffiti coating is not there, we could paint over it because we have these colors in stock.
Commissioner Matthew?
Yeah, so I'm just curious about the precedent for this look of the bridge relative to other bridges in the city. And I think the other Matthew on the call here, Matthew Ward, mentioned this was maybe an opportunity to introduce a new element with this sort of matte color, this matted beige color. I share some of the sort of, not concern, because honestly, I really take issue with graffiti not being considered artwork. So just going to say that. I think that's a weird distinction. But if we're going there, a white looking surface is appealing for that. So I'm just trying to sort through one. Are there other, and I didn't know that this bridge was historic because you said section 106 was the approach you all went through to approve this. So, yeah, part of me is wrestling with, is this beige or matte color, in line with, or it offers a sort of set of dignity to this area, that something that looks more, for lack of better words, earthen or organic than like a white wall, essentially. I don't know. I'm trying to wrestle with like the trade-offs of that. And I don't know if you all have any thoughts about it. Separately from that, I am also wondering, from the community engagement process, which I appreciate that you all went through and seemed pretty extensive, is there an anti-graffiti like sentiment in the community? Or, I mean, I heard the commissioner before, you mentioned that this is going to invite a lot of that, and I'm just curious, like, is graffiti prevalent in this neighborhood? Like, I don't know. Say it again. Yeah, I know you went to Overbrook. Yeah, I'm just. What? Okay.
The kids go across that.
So that's what I'm wrestling with, is that how this bridge functions and the rhythm or the flow of what people do in this neighborhood already. And so fighting against the current, like I'm really wondering about, and I appreciate that there is a section of here that's for designated artworks, but even that, I'm wondering, is that dynamic? Is that a static artwork? Like, how do you roll with the tide or the history of the neighborhood rather than fight against it? So these are a lot of questions, but these are things that are just rattling through my mind. I'm wondering if you all have thoughts about.
Yeah. So I think the bridge sees about 200 pedestrians a day during the school year. When we went and did the community outreach, understandably so, most of the questions and concerns were about the traffic and the detour and what's going to happen. I didn't really hear anything about graffiti. I didn't hear many critical discussions one way or the other about the look of the bridge. It was more about, like, how can you get it done quicker and get out of our neighborhood and have this be less of a burden to everybody in the area. That was what all the conversations eventually focused on both times. And then with the earthing colors, with concrete, it needs to be protected. We need to either apply a penetrating sealer, which makes it go from that white look to a little bit duller than white, like more on the grayish side. And we just thought that it would be better to go with one of those, like you were talking about, the neutral earth tones of the matte and beige, with the benefit being that is currently in stock. We have the contract to replace that color.
My comment is about the color too, because I actually like the idea, and looking at some of your before and afters, it may be the rust color from Exactly Rust, but it is more earthen. And it's just, if your point is like a bright white or canvas is so attractive, whether it has stone details or not, maybe the color being less just bright, would just like a mid-tone, like that wall color, the reddish. I hate to say, and I'm just looking at like the before and after, and you think it certainly does kind of blend in nicely. And if it were more of this color, kind of the color on that faux stone piece, that I don't know, could that be a little bit of a deterrent? A deeper, richer brown.
It's a good point.
Yeah, like in the panel of it having and the white around it. I don't know.
Just one color. This is a black. This is like the acrylic is framed in the dark anyway, as well as the lamppost. I mean, I don't know if it's more attractive I think it might be on the bright white versus a darker color. And then it does sort of blend in better.
I think I had a similar thought, which is why I was asking about the anti-graffiti coating, because that should free you up from not needing to just use what's in stock, which is maybe not the most inspiring way to choose a color. But so, I mean, if that is intended to last a while, does that allow you to, plan for other things?
Yeah, a color, like the color could be changed to be a little bit dark. I see what you're saying on that front. It could be darker. The anti-graffiti coating being applied, it'll last at least 10 years. And then beyond that, it's the touch-ups, if they're even needed, like what you were saying, if they're even needed, they might not be a perfect match, but it will be better looking. Like it'll be more of a deterrent until then.
Carmen.
Please refresh, my memory again, because I heard you say that you already have some experience with this type of treatment of walls in other bridges. So can you give us a sense of, how frequently does, graffiti get tagged, and how frequently does it have to be cleaned?
I guess there's a distinction between the concrete surface, which we use on like many bridges, and the acrylic panel, which is, we just have one bridge in our inventory. That's 41st Street over Amtrak. That's the only city bridge that has used it so far. There's a Amtrak bridge, pedestrian bridge over Amtrak down in University City. And PennDOT has installed this acrylic panel on a couple of bridges that they have on like Schuylkill Avenue over by the 30th Street station. So the acrylic panels on 41st Street Bridge have not needed to be cleaned yet. So they haven't gotten tagged. They haven't gotten noticeably scratched. So we haven't needed to clean them yet. The concrete surfaces, it would be similar to other concrete surfaces throughout the city, where it's just depending on the location, it gets tagged. You come and you paint over it. Usually these days you paint over it. You get as close as you can with the color, and then if it gets tagged again, then you just come back. That has been our experience with those kinds of surfaces. We don't have too many bridges that have the accent color that have gotten tagged. So we're very thankful for that. There's a couple in the city that have that form liner and then got the architectural accent treatment coloring of the different stones and the mortar joints, but those particular ones haven't gotten tagged yet. So we haven't needed to solve the problem of how to make it look better without just blindly painting over it and eliminating all the treatment that was there in the first place.
Thank you. I think that's helpful. The other question I have is, this clear acrylic almost wall on both sides of the bridge, are there going to be dangerous for birds? For example, is there any kind of texture or something that avoids, birds from crashing against it?
Right. Yeah, so the proportions, just so you know, we're talking about, it's going to be 3'6" tall for the concrete barrier, and then the total height needs to be 9'6". It's going to be 5 foot on top. It's a great question about the bird safety that came up in some of the public outreach. There's an option for us to tint that clear color a little bit, like tint it a little bit so that it's more visible. It's also going to be, it's going to be framed with the framing supports, but there's an option to tint it more of, there's different colors that it could be tinted. We don't want to like make it a color, but we want to make it visible so that what you're talking about doesn't happen.
On your
And
point.
just want to add to the
Yeah, go
response
ahead.
there too. The products that we are looking at to use for the acrylic panels, they do have filaments that are actually embedded into the acrylic panel
There you go.
that are designed to for bird, bird impacts. So it's been shown that using this filament process does deter that.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. Yeah.
Okay, so, I'm gonna wrap up this item. So there are two things. Troy, do you need to see the renderings of the bridge that way to make, make your vote, decision clear?
That will be helpful, yes.
Okay.
Just some additional details. And if you just want to include the
The engineering drawings.
Yeah, the engineering
Certainly.
drawing, that's what.
Yeah.
sorry.
We could do that. Yep.
Okay, so changing the color, I feel like that's why kind of all of you agree. I'm trying to get something done here.
We're all the way at making it a graffiti bridge, which, just to go with the flow.
So-
Because I don't know, it's an uphill battle, but you're doing your best.
So, the color can be changed as they recommend, a little darker.
Yeah, I think we could make a darker shade of that. Yes.
Okay. So, yes, Miguel, public comments. Here we go. Thank you. On your microphone, please. State your name,
Can you state
please.
your name for the record?
Sure. Miguel Horn, a visual artist. And as a advocate for public art, I see a great opportunity to use the surface of this debated space as a way for ornament or embellishment, which can be an easy deterrent. Having a designated location for public art in one spot at either end is great. But we see opportunities of these panels which are just pressed forms, which could easily be, a ornate pattern or a geometric pattern or something just a little bit more than a flat panel, which would create a much more challenging surface to work with against graffiti, but also it's ornament. You're giving a community a piece of artwork as well as a functional thing. And rather than providing a blank canvas, it gives something more, which maybe they wouldn't need to feel the need to embellish with their own artwork.
Mhm.
So something to consider, could be a simple pattern that's pressed into that shape. Years ago, there was a similar project with the Narberth Bridge over Amtrak, SEPTA. Never came to fruition, but that was the simple proposal, just a pattern which could be press fit into each one of those squares. Just a thought.
Any art in those spaces will come back to this commission for approval.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Was this Creative Philadelphia the entity that would be over that decision versus this? Okay. That's a great idea, though. Thank
You
you.
guys feel about that?
I just have
Thank you,
one,
Miguel.
I just have one more question, and it's kind of related to what Miguel said, which was, I know you guys did a lot of technical research going through the history, and this seems to be kind of like the soft side, which is the finishes and how would it stand. There's a bridge over, I think, 34th Street that linked the art museum with Drexel. Everybody uses it to get. Years ago, they had panels of portraits of people from Pelton Village. Before that big bridge was tagged often. But when they had those portraits, they removed them for some reason in whatever improvement over the last 5, 10 years or something like that. But, it becomes, have you reached out to either the schools or some type of community arts program about, and this would go into Creative Philadelphia, coordinating with them to do artwork in those inset areas? Because one thing about taggers is, and I wasn't a tagger in my young years, but you respect local art. You don't want to deface that. So that might be the whole answer to this, is take the constraint here and make it an opportunity, which is, I know you technical engineers, that's the last thing you guys want to think about, but I think this is a handoff to the art community about, hey, listen, we have this opportunity. Can you help us resolve it? I think that might be the approach. So that's my final.
Okay, I'm gonna wrap it up. Last.
No, no, I mean, because, if this is, if this needs, to be considered for % for art, then that will be a, separate kind of project, and it will come back to the commission.
That'd be great. So, Ian, I guess I'm trying to see if I can recap everyone. And I do really like Miguel's idea. Is that something that you can work with us on that?
I think already proposing at the 4 quadrants, I don't see why we couldn't allow for artwork to be throughout the bridge as well. It's just that we won't be able to do that as part of the project, to be able to work the contractor's schedule and access to the site afterwards, yeah. That is commonly done. Mural Arts has been in touch with us about a number of bridges. I know that's a separate entity, but we entertain those types of things all the time, and we work with them to make sure that it's done in a way that won't jeopardize any detailing on the bridge, but it always comes out looking nice.
Okay, yeah, we need to add that and also the technical drawing.
Yes.
So, with these 2 items being placed, are we okay to give a final approval? Or do you want to hold this? It's up to you guys. Do we need to do
I
this?
don't have any sort of like glaring issues with the design and the way that they want about the responding to the last concerns. I think if we can separate out the conversation perhaps around the art that would be on the panels to a decision or a separate process with, excuse me, Creative Philadelphia, then I would be, comfortable.
I think that's where it's gonna come, because the % of art, we can merge all that.
I'm sorry, but I will want to clarify, is this, would that process by Creative Philadelphia, because a lot of this proposal includes a lot around like using a matte color and then the epoxy finish and stuff like that. Would that Creative Philadelphia project wipe that all down and then decide what to put on top of that? I don't know. Maybe it's a question for you, but I'm trying to understand. Are we fine? Is this? It's obviously not permanent in the sense that it can never come off. But so maybe I answered my own question. I don't know. I'm trying to like sort out what the decisions are here.
Yeah, I guess what you're getting at is what we're proposing here. Will that prevent people from coming later and doing something?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
You can take that off. You can blast that off.
Got it.
Okay.
Right, so there's time, because you have to build it before you paint it.
Exactly.
There's,
It's like 2 years.
so maybe it could include the color of the paint
Right.
and then whatever's on
Yeah.
top of it.
Make sure that's on
Sorry,
record, please, Ian.
Can you say that? Can you say that again?
I guess maybe what I'm hearing a little bit like, and same thing is does this, there's enough time, it seems, that by the time it gets through and something comes up with our Creative Philadelphia, that it might include the paint color, which we were talking about, because you're not going to paint it for a long time,
Right.
if that's part of their solution to making it less graffiti inviting or
yeah,
something.
yeah.
Which could be panels with murals on them, or,
Or ornate decorations.
or
or
ornate
something. Yeah.
decoration panels. But the paint color, I'm saying, might be included in that. So we're not married to the paint color if
Like
we're
you're saying,
approving it.
if it comes up, say like a year and a half, 2 years from now, that a different paint color is in line with whatever the future use of the bridge from the artwork side of things, could it be changed? And I think it could be, as long as the paint hasn't been, ordered by the contractor and started to be applied down at the abutment level, because it's a consistent theme of paint throughout. But the original point of, can it be blasted? Like, can the paint color be removed and something be put in all those panels? Absolutely, yes, that could be done.
Well, so just to understand what we are moving forward, I mean, are we saying that at this level, we would like to recommend that the paint be considered a slightly darker tone? at this level.
Yes.
And in the future, whatever, the percent for art conversation is gonna be a different conversation.
That's what I'm,
Yeah, so the two things would be the, additional details of construction documents,
Yeah.
of engineering construction documents, and the recommendation of darkening
Darkening
slightly the
to
color,
get ready for creative art.
right,
Okay.
to serve as a slight deterrent and then get ready for the next level.
Thank you, Carmen, yes.
Thank Okay, so, there is a motion or no?
Motion.
Anyone second it?
Second.
All right, thank you. Roll call.
Okay, so just to clarify, this is for,
Motion for final approval?
Yes.
Okay.
it's for final approval with a darker color and provide the engineering drawings, is that? Okay, and then any art will come back at a later time.
For the art.
Yes.
How is that, whose responsibility is it to link this project up? I get it, the engineers have done their job. But who's the third party or first, whichever party that links this project up with Percent for Art and the opportunities that are in that wall space that spans? Who, it's,
You get to creative art to say, they're gonna say, hey, this project.
here's an opportunity to put a call out to artists and here's the span of and all these inset panels and come up with something either that gets applied into it or it gets painted on it, whatever they come up with. Okay.
If they come up and we don't agree. they have
So
to
that's
go back
the
to
staff of the art commission to work with Percent. Got it. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion for final approval. I'm gonna do a roll call vote. Commissioner Marnie,
Approved. Can I just say one thing? I would hope in the 2 years, there is time to coordinate the art so that you're not applying an expensive coating just to sandblast it off. If that's possible, I think that would benefit the city.
Commissioner Matthew,
Approved.
Commissioner Troy,
Approved.
Commissioner James,
Approved.
Commissioner Rebecca,
Approved.
Commissioner Carmen,
Approved.
and Ray Ed.
Approved.
So unanimous approval. Darker color and provide engineering drawings.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Up next, we have a presentation for concept review. This is Avenue of the Arts Median Project, a sculpture at South Broad and Spruce and Pine Streets.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just. Yeah, yeah, it's ugly, and I think they think it looks like neat, and it's like, it looks inhumane. Like, it doesn't look lived in.
Miguel, that's you? We're ready.
I mean, you see that in restaurants now, have like the exposed bread, or some like element of the original fabric, just slapping over it with something. It's just like gross.
Whenever you're ready, you can start.
All right.
Yeah.
Good morning. Thank you. Good to see you all again. Commissioner Matt, good to see you back at the Art Commission.
Thank you.
Doing better. So this is actually a really exciting project to present to you all. I'm super excited about this because this has been a project that I've been dreaming of realizing for the better part of a decade. And when this opportunity was first introduced to me, I received a call from Julia Guerrero, Civic Centered, Tom Miles, who's on the committee for the Avenue of the Arts. I had no idea about this envisioning for South Broad and Avenue of the Arts 2.0. So as I learned more about this project, I just fell in love with what is going on in South Broad And this is such a cool project to be a part of, such a cool project for our city. And I just wanted to start out by giving a little bit of context of this space. The median for South Broad Street, which is, again, being called Avenue of the Arts 2.0, is getting a pilot median reimagining, which is ongoing, is going right now, and is actually pretty well on its way. This commission, or members of this commission, saw the median presentation previously. So for those who are not part of it, just a couple slides here to give you some locations. And if you've seen the construction in South Broad, the spruce pine block just in front of Kimmel Center, Art House, the VIA, Village of Industry and Art, is smack dab in the middle of what's being described as the theater district. And you can see where this fits into the kind of future plan of the closer blocks to City Hall, and then the further extent. And all of these blocks have an envisioned plan by Gensler Architects to engage throughout this dynamic public space. So I'm like super honored to be the pilot artist for this pilot project. You can see there's these plans have kind of described parts of this median. There's modifications to raise up this central barrier, include some trees across it, and then there's these kind of sloped areas that rise up to the full height of the median at either terminus. And when this was first proposed, you could see that very bottom there, it just kind of points out, sculpture and artwork will undergo its separate art commission review. So that's what we're here for today. At this northern extent of the median looking south, you can see the existing conditions. This kind of, low median, which acts as just a barrier, is pretty uninspiring, pretty simple. And I think what's really interesting about these proposals for these spaces is that it does consider this as a world-class space, a world-class destination. And how can we think about bringing amenities to sidewalks and medians to make this pedestrian experience along Broad Street so much more pleasurable? So you can see those plantings on either side of the sidewalk, and then how this kind of meadow-like plantings rise up to receive the first envisioned artwork. This kind of shows the extents of the Phase 1A median, the dimensions of this first span. And this is an updated slide of the trees and their locations. The species have not changed since the original presentation. More so their orientation and where they have been, kind of shifted together allows for our art installation at either end to have, a little bit more space. If you kind of take a look at just outside of these two outside trees, you can see there's kind of a connotation of this kind of squiggly line of what we're looking at. So design inspiration for my piece, my proposal today, comes from Broad Street itself. For the past 10 years, the better part of that, I've been using LiDAR scanning equipment to capture existing conditions for sculpture projects, installations. And what that is basically a tripod-mounted 3D scanner that just spins around, and it just captures architecture, space, static elements. But what I didn't realize what was happening at the same time that I was doing that was, as you can see at the lower part of this presentation, anything that's passing in front of this scanner is also being collected. So as I was standing here in front of the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts building, I thought this would be a really beautiful piece of architecture to scan and capture. This woman was just sitting at her phone, sending a really involved text. And you can see at the bottom right, the scanner was positioned in front of her. So it only captured like a leaf of her form, a small digital fragment of that individual, that pedestrian, standing there having like a personal, very personal moment. And as I moved the computer software around to the side of her, I saw that she was just this simple shell that when viewed from one side looks completely normal and natural. But as we move around her, we see that this is kind of an artifact of this scanning process. I found this to be an incredibly interesting aberration from this very technical engineering process. And as I kind of floated through all of these different sites, I found all of these pedestrians, all these Philadelphians just going about their day, enjoying, these public spaces. This guy was like mean mugging me the whole time because he was really like, what is he doing? What is that piece of equipment? I don't trust you, But you see these survey guys around the city all the time, and this is the equipment that it's being used for. But what it's not used for is capturing anything that's not static. So this section of the Reading Terminal Market at Filbert Street was just flooded with pedestrians walking by, and these movements of pedestrians across this space created this tapestry of just like figurative elements, abstractions, and I just fell in love with this. For the past 10 years, I've been writing grants, proposals, submitting this kind of stuff for other opportunities, which thankfully I found people who have a vision to see what I'm looking at here. What you're looking at on the screen now is a self-portrait as I stood in front of the camera, and then somebody slowly walked past me as I was standing still. And this kind of Muybridge-like study of movement for me was the most compelling thing sculpturally I've seen rendered on a computer screen in years. And I've been trying to figure out how to manifest that into a physical form. When I first looked at the median of Broad Street, the constraints of which are quite significant. We have a 4-foot footprint, which we can work with, and a very long composition. I immediately knew that this would be something that could fit in that space. I went through these scans and I selected different movements of people who were, stretched out in this kind of experience of walking across this scanner. And some of these concepts you can see are, those elements of people moving from one side visible literally, from the other completely abstract. If we find ourselves in the cardinal viewpoint where that scanner stood, for a brief moment, everything aligns to give you a very literal pedestrian image of a person standing still or in this movement. But as we walk around it, it becomes abstract, it stretches, it becomes an aberration of that person's gait, that individual pedestrian movement. I thought it'd be interesting to play with this composition so that as you're moving past it, whether in a vehicle, on a bicycle, on foot, you have different speeds with which you experience this transition across this space. I thought it'd be interesting that as you move across this with a vehicle that's very fast, and you get that moment of perception of that literal person standing in that space, moves very quickly, and it makes you slow down. It almost makes you kind of slow to the pace with which that original scanner was moving. So I'm proposing to create this, as you can see with these in my typical topographical construction, laminated layers of steel, in this case powder coated. And if we look at the material presentations here, there's this RAL 1028 is a mango color. It's a very vibrant, warm tone, which is intended to really play with the plantings that are adjacent. And you can see with some of these renders from OJB, there's these kind of taller purple plantings, which kind of sit right where the feet of these figures would be standing. And in some of these renders, you can see how that color, would draw light and really pop from this composition. So if we're looking north here, you can see the Kimmel Center on the far corner. You can see City Hall. We're looking at this from the north-facing movement. Already that kind of composition is stretched out in this perspective. And this is from the same opposite side of the street looking north. You can see the Broad Street Ministry and Art House in the background. And this composition is, visible from both sides as, similarly. On one side is a little more abstract. The other side has a little bit more composition of figures with it. And kind of a more aerial view to kind of understand the scope of the spans of these forms. In these last two renders, you can see these kind of night vistas of the forms that are, these have included the existing site lighting for the trees and the median. We will also be including pedestal lighting, which you can see has, will add additional kind of ambient light to the space and spots. I mentioned some of the constraints of this site. One of the largest ones is the sight line for PennDOT to have a clear view from the vehicle driving on the inside lane to see the light from about 215 feet out. And so this grade area is basically a no-go zone. We had to stay outside of that. And if I can see, if I can zoom in here, the shape of these forms actually work incredibly well with that sight line because it just kind of mimics the same orientation. It kind of shifts that individual perspective of where everything kind of lines up to the oncoming traffic as you're driving north. We also have, it's not quite too visible in this, but the setback area where we have to be 2 feet back from each median. And so we're, comfortably inside all of these parameters. And this is the north end. You can see the same thing. We have a longer composition, so we're kind of stretching across those perimeters. In these elevations, you can see how those topographical lines also kind of enhance this sense of movement. So it's not only like a solid shape, but you're getting these continual steppings, which this front side and end side are going to get different light effects. So as this is, a north-south orientation, the edges of these plates are going to be in highlight in full sun, while the sides will have a kind of raking light across it. So that lighting will also kind of help delineate that topography and accentuate that sense of movement across these forms. And then in the south elevation, you can see there's a, similar idea where the speed with which the topography is moving changes across this form. It's not uniform. So depending on the orientation of this slicing, we'll actually kind of feel this sense of stretching, time kind of moving across it. You can also see the pedestals, which were just installed. It's a modular system that was designed to allow for flexibility of installation for this as well as future installations. So a very robust construction. I'll get back to that in a second. These are the updated tree and planting schematics that were provided by OJB since the last median. So we can see what those planting schematics would be in relation to the sculptural placement at either end and the planting schedule. And I included in here updated lighting plan as well, specifying not only where these ambient lighting locations will be, but there's a detail of the specific lighting. I think those slides might be out of order, sorry. This is our mounting connection. You can see that this is the pedestal location, and we're tying in with L brackets at the base of each sculpture into those locations. These secondary static figures are helping to also act as a kind of lateral support to spread out the kind of axial orientation, so it has a wider footprint along that base. This is the shop drawings of that, those half-inch plate construction pedestals, so they're quite robust. And here's back to some of those lighting details. You can ignore this as, you know, the previous sculpture location. So, you know, this is not where it would be, but these, you know, stake lights and then, you know, pedestal lights. This is what's going to be the spots on the actual sculpture. This is the detail of those light pieces and the specifics of, you know, which finishes and lenses are going to be used. Thank you very much.
Oh, very nice. Commissioners?
Thank you for the presentation, and yeah, I have a lot of thoughts. One of the questions I guess I have is, are we looking, this is for concept approval, so are you proposing this as the final artwork right now? And then I guess I'm wondering, are you still in the process of working through the piece?
So we would love to get concept and final approval from the Art Commission today. We have a schedule that is intended to, you know, move forward with production and installation this fall. You know, what we've done extensive work from December through today in selecting the compositions which would best fit with this space and this opportunity, but also, again, work with the constraints of that and maximize the impact.
Thank you. And then the other piece, because I appreciate you showing us too, like the different sight lines that you're required to work from with like lighting and all of that with PennDOT. Are people meant to be able to walk up to this median or no? All right, no.
No, I don't think the
Because I know in
intention-
Philly, I mean, that the medians have been part of the sort of experience of South Street, and I have some feelings about this being.
yeah.
But anyways, you all are moving forward with that. That's fine. But I see the elevation. I mean, I don't know which number slide it is, but it's showing, I guess, how this height of this compares to like a human scale, and it just made me wonder, like, oh, are they able to walk up to this, or if it's just meant? That's actually part of the sculpture. Okay, got it. Got it.
Yeah. Or Penn or Phillies, you know, or next year the Sixers. I will say this. I want to acknowledge what Commissioner Matt said. You know, I think one of the things that I received as feedback from this, and I heard as feedback of this plan, was, you know, this is our pedestrian space. Broad Street is a pedestrian location, right? And somebody raised the question at the DAG presentation last month. You know, this is a space where people congregate, right? People take photographs here. They take graduation photos. They take you know, wedding photos. Like, this is a space that is get haircuts, you know? Like, this has always been a space that has been a dynamic pedestrian space. And that's why I think actually this content, this design, like, really speaks to this place as reminding everyone, you know, this is what this is about, right? This is us. These are Philadelphians. These are portraits of pedestrians in movement across these spaces. And it's kind of you know, I find this to be a reclamation of our public space through this kind of figurative artwork. You know, as a figurative artist, I'm constantly trying to find opportunities to bring the human experience to the forefront of these public spaces. Now, I understand as we look through, you know, that there's this question about how, you know, pedestrians will not be able to access it. You know, isn't that removing our, you know, the trees? Like, this is going to change this nature of South Broad Street. And when Gensler addressed this question in OJB, you know, what they said was, this is as far north as plantings and trees in the median will go. So this block is where those sightline disruptions, median interventions, which remove that from the pedestrian experience. This is as far as that goes. And each block is going to be treated differently. And I thought that that was a beautiful way to honor that space for Philadelphians and not take that away from us, right? To say, you know, like this is in this theater district, this is going to be, you know, addressed in this way. In this civic core space, there will not be an interruption to that visual sightline of City Hall, you know, of this important architecture in our city. So I appreciated that, obviously, as a pedestrian. But I think that what this does is it creates it just juxtaposes that pedestrian experience with, you know, these improvements, and you know, it keeps our experience in that forefront.
You know, that's what's main when we approve this, that we will make sure we are like, hey, this is, like you say, this space is for this space.
Yeah.
So, okay, I mean, I do really like your piece of art. Go ahead, James.
I think the art, the concept and everything is just there. It's on point. The question I have, and then I think maybe I might have mentioned it about the landscape materials, is I get it. This is the only block that has the super image of greenery and growth and trees. My concern, and it's not only about the piece of art, but it's also the height of the shrubbery, how much height it takes. I'm thinking of public safety. Cops coming down the street, they're looking for somebody, and they can't see the other side. Not only because of the two pieces of artwork on it, but it's the trees, the foliage, and what the height, and they're looking from their cars for somebody. Had there been any thoughts on your artwork to? It looks like it's a solid structure, without it being in any way perforated. And I'd hate to, I mean, this is where, I mean, other than some of the shapes kind of creating some openings, it almost looks like it's a solid piece and so forth.
Yeah, so I think there are areas of broader visual expanse, you know, and this is a great example where you can see kind of like the shoulder, arm, and head as this figure is kind of stretched out all the way across, becomes these little tails at the end. While it occupies a great space, where the feet touch down are these moments across the composition. Some, as the leg was moving a little bit slower and from the camera, becomes this kind of like a draped, you know, shape where the leg is kind of like maybe like a flowing skirt, summer dress, you know. But then there's these other moments where they're just concentrated and just a foot coming down. I talked with OJB about working with the planting, so it almost looks like the feet are, you know, clearing away the grasses or the plants that are as it steps down, you know, to kind of further this sense of these anchoring points being, you know, moments. But you can also see, you know, as we're driving, the median wall is just about 4 feet tall. So, you know, our sight line is pretty much right in between these openings where the feet are stepping down. So there's these kind of windows as the feet step down across it, these kind of arches, you know, that allow us to see through, to see across. And then those kind of body shapes, I guess, from the torso up are above sight line and above where your seated vehicle line is. It helps us to kind of create the sense of space and opening through it.
But you're actually traveling at what, 30 miles per hour?
No, 20,
So-
supposed to be
25.
25.
Yeah. Get your ticket now.
No one's supposed to be
Most-
going
Most
30.
people, so although I understand what you're saying, I mean, there's a level of subtlety and interest in the way that you describe the sculpture, and I'm sure it's there. But the reality is people will be moving very fast and they may not be able to appreciate the level of detail that you described. And those are people in the cars. People that are walking by are going to be, I don't know how far away. So will they be able to understand the same level of detail the way that you describe? I'm sure there's a way to do that, but is there, but I don't know if what you're showing is capable of performing at that level at this point. And I think that goes directly to, do we approve the sculpture, final conceptual and final approval? I think for me, it'd be interesting to know the material that sculpture's made of, how you intend to make it. Is there a level of transparency? I mean, the way that you describe the light reflecting off of the contours seems very interesting, but how exactly will that work? Depending on sort of the time of day and the sun angles and things like that. The detail of how the sort of the base is attached to the pedestals, the way that you described. I mean, it could be very interesting, but it really depends on the detail, how those connections are made. So I think, again, the way that you describe it, it could possibly be done, but a lot of the answers should be addressed in the way that the sculpture is developed in the details.
Yeah, if I can remark on the first point you made, vehicles passing by this at a certain speed versus pedestrians, cyclists. Every one of those are going to be unique experiences. I think what's really interesting about this sculpturally is that those offer you a bit of uncertainty of what it is you're perceiving. And that moment of uncertainty, kind of inspires you to look into it a little further, a bit of inquiry into the shape, what it is, And I think that tension of uncertainty is what is compelling about this composition. These kind of fragments of static figures, which are dispersed across the composition, are intentionally positioned in ways that their kind of cardinal viewpoint it's not all from one space. The long composition, when it's kind of seen axial from one end, is a fraction of a second as you're driving, right? If you catch that when you're moving north, it's like, wow, that's pretty rare, right? You slow down as you start to move across it. You see these other two shapes that are kind of standing there. One is oriented towards you so that you see that kind of figure more clearly. But as you're moving across it, the other figure is facing the opposite direction of traffic. Say you're heading north on Broad Street. That's the south composition. By the time you get to the north composition, you're processing what it is that you just saw. What are those shapes? I know they're somewhat figurative. They're somewhat representational. By the time you get to the north composition, you get the opposite side of that axial image. That split second, which you just saw before, as your mind is processing it and seeing these figures, you get to revisit that on the other side of the median for a split second. Let's hope you're coming up to a yellow or a red light. And you get to slow down and observe this space and observe these sculptures in a different context. So a friend of mine once said this, it's more powerful for a piece to say, huh? Oh. Than, oh, huh. And I thought that was a really great way to approach these compositions, right? I want people to look at this and be like, what the hell did I just see? And for that to be the public, broad experience. And then for this realization to kind of permeate and spread out. Say, oh, did you see those figures? Yeah. There's this one spot where if you stand back, you can see that, right? And it becomes a more dynamic sculpture than just like a plot piece with an isolated experience. So I want to say, I understand. I'm asking you all to kind of stretch this imagination quite a bit to see something that frankly doesn't exist. This is unlike anything I've ever seen. Anything I have ever encountered in my studies, in my work, in contemporary art. And I'll say that I think that we're at a very unique moment in our time to be experiencing this. We've all seen Waymo driving through the city. What it's doing right now is it's using the same kind of technology to map not only pedestrians, not only vehicles, dogs, cyclists, and the way that it's digitally interpreting our world is a replica of what we're seeing here. As you drive in a Waymo, I went on one in San Francisco, it's terrifying. You get to see a screen of all of these cameras working in unison, reading people walking across the street, understanding that it needs to stop. I think this was a really poignant observation of our physical experience in this world interpreted through this digital lens and how that moving forward is a unique moment. This might be passé in 10 years. Like, oh yeah, we've all seen Waymo screens. This is literally what's on a Waymo screen, you know? Maybe in San Francisco, they'd be looking at this like, oh yeah, you know? But here, we're gonna be, you know, experiencing this as a very unique time in Philadelphia's, you know, world to you know, speak to that, you know, connection between our digital and our physical worlds and actually have a piece of a marker of that here.
All right,
Oh,
Rebecca.
I won't go too long. Miguel, I love your work. And, you know, I appreciate what you've brought in, and we've seen a lot of actual pieces in hand, you know, that you show the cutout and stuff like that. Just taking you backward for 1 second, and I love the marriage of the figure, and we're going all the way forward past Waymo, and you're pulling this together. So kudos on your 10 years. When I blow this up, and I see the striations that are not real, it was reminding me of the perforated works that you do. Did you maybe consider, and I was kind of attached to like, I kept thinking, what if you can't see through the other side? I don't know if you need, how much you need to, but I wondered if you had considered that plane doing how you so elegantly kind of follow, you know, a lot of that data when, just kind of perforated through this view when you're going straight across, not the people. But, but
the last piece, actually, yeah.
Yeah, so I was just kind of thinking that now I'm like in your art business space. But then the other point being that, to your point, if someone's going, and maybe you are a pedestrian, they're going to have a cool view too.
Oh, for sure.
And so is there a spot where they might stand and go, oh, you know, where there's like a point of information maybe on each side?
Yeah, so I think
So
there's.
they get it, and then they have an answer if they.
Yeah,
want
and
one.
what I think is really cool about this is that there's not like one view, right? Or you stand in front of it and you're like, oh, this is the view, right? I'd like to, I don't have a render of this, but there is a sculpture, a very famous sculpture by Luis Barragan in Mexico City in Satélite. Satélite was a new development in the northern part of the city. And Barragan was, you know, brutalist architect. He had very strong geometric concepts of building. He constructed the Torres de Satélite. They're the towers of this new city in like the 60s. And they were just these spires of concrete that when you're driving up to them, just look like rectangular buildings, you know, in slightly different orientations. But as you actually come up to the roundabout of this highway, they're stretched into this, you know, these needle points that those forced perspectives as you come up across them, you know, make it a dynamic space, right? And so somewhat of an inspiration by how vehicular traffic can also, you know, use a static moment to really change as you go around it. But it's not just about cars, you know? It's about these slow moments as you are a pedestrian, as you're going across, you're crossing Broad Street, right? And it makes you kind of see this as you're walking across. It makes you stop on the sidewalk, you know, and reflect on this space.
I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
now that you mention it, because I won't be walking north, I mean, south to north, I won't be able to see the same figure from south. If I'm walking on
Yeah.
this side of on Broad Street, I won't be able to see what's the same thing. But this one, I don't know if it's possible. I'm not saying it because you do that type of work.
Mhm.
It will see almost both identical on a different angle. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, and this way, if you put it in yellow, I will not be able to see the man on this side while I'm coming down to South Philly. Then same, I don't know where it's gonna be, that person. It's not gonna be the same image if I'm walking on. I don't care about vehicles, to be honest. This is for people who are walking.
Yeah.
For me, I mean, I do care, but I'm mainly for people who are walking. And another thing I was gonna suggest is, in each corner, like in the south side, before people cross, that would be nice to see something, a QR code with a little picture on the edge of before you walk, and that way people will know, oh, this is the picture in there, okay. So at least they know what they're seeing when they're crossing.
Yeah.
And at the same time, they're what they see when they're going north or south. You see what,
Yeah, I to that point, I think a similar note was we presented this to Creative Philadelphia as well. They endorsed this project. They really appreciated what we brought. They said the same thing. Like, if we're here, we're standing on the sidewalk, you know, could maybe potentially include, you know, a plaque or a symbol or a QR code that kind of tells this story about what this is you're seeing, right? So it's supposed to not be obvious, but then you can also have these, you know, touch points at the four corners of this, you know, potentially that can. You know,
Yeah, Commissioner Rebecca and I were talking about this a little bit because we know this is Philly and people have been not programmed to, but they are used to being able to go to that pedestrian. If you're trying to manage behavior change in that way, like, sure, the planters will be a deterrent and all of that, but you're kind of tempting fate by having this incredible art piece in the middle as well. And so I'm wondering, like, in the current plans, are there poles like that are perpendicular or something to the piece, like on both sides of the street, that perhaps a placard could be put there that has like the name of the piece, like a little information about it, or even a closer view of some way. I'm, you know, we see these sometimes on like heritage trails where they have a little information, whatever, about the history of, I say in this case, Avenue of the Arts, but whatever. And just kind of offers a deterrent for people to like get in, trying to walk and go see it up close. I mean, I don't know. That's for art nerds. We want to see as close as possible, but if that's not allowed or it's not safe, I would say, yeah, having some sort of label on the opposite side of the street might be a good addition to this to. Yeah, just cover all the bases. That's how I'm feeling. I'm thinking about access in a way.
Agreed. I think, you know, potentially as Phase 1B will address the sidewalks, there is going to be ample opportunities to include a QR code, as you said, or something maybe more future-proof, or it could be just a,
Sure,
you know, a contextual signage, you know, something that says, you know, this is a sculpture about, you know, people in movement, sculptures of people's movement, and kind of give also some of these slides, you know, the history of this composition of those slides.
Yeah, if I could just last thing is that I feel like that is this piece. Is this piece part of like, is Creative Philadelphia managing this in any way, or is this coming directly through?
So.
Okay.
can you?
Okay,
please, sorry.
So I just want to be. Okay, yeah.
No,
The
but
reason.
okay, the microphone. Okay, so it's good. Just to make sure it's recorded.
It's hard for people on Zoom to hear without the microphone. That's all.
I'm sorry. I'm Carl Duranoff. I'm chairman of Avenue of the Arts, Inc. We're the group that initiated Vision 2.0, which is intended to transform South Broad Street, now known as Avenue of the Arts, from City Hall to Washington Avenue and into the greatest street in North America. That's our goal. We have a fantastic, sculpture here. I love hearing that you want recognition for the artist and an explanation. That can definitely be part of phase 1B, which is the sidewalk phase. That's where we could put plaques. You may not know this, but there are plaques embedded in the sidewalks from the Music Alliance. And I can foresee something like that, or maybe even elevated on the wall of, Kimmel Center or Art House that could explain what the art really is and.
I appreciate that.
give
Yeah.
background.
Yeah, that's clarifying because part of why I asked, is this Creative Philadelphia or is this someone else, is to understand whether that would be a part of the decision around concept versus final. Because for me, I think knowing what this is and trying to offer people more access to view it from in a convenient way versus seeing it from a distance and, like I said before, tempting
We
fate.
don't want them, we
Yeah.
don't want them dodging through traffic.
Exactly,
on
yeah.
Broad
So
Street
I'm
to
trying to
get
figure
a little
out,
bit
should
of
we
information.
link it to this decision or should it be separate? And that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, thank you. No, go ahead, Senator.
Oh, I just have one other thing. When you were talking about the four-way views, you have two people on one side of one sculpture and two figures on the other side. This is just a consideration in your art business, but did you consider each one having one person on one side and one on the other side? Because then to your point, no one would miss. You would never see sort of the backside
Yeah.
of one or the other, depending on which way you were going. I don't know if that would ruin it for you, like to have a figure on each side, so there's.
No, and I appreciate this comment because actually the compositional construction of this was like so much decided by all of these limitations of setback, PennDOT sightline. So we're hugging just the very border of that sightline, which is really one of the most determining factors on the one side. And we played with all kinds of different orientations, actually having the kind of more flat, side of the composition being front facing to the south end. If you're thinking south end heading north, the first meeting that you have with these pieces, do you make it so abstract that there's nothing on that side and the figures on the other side, so that when you come to the other side of the median, you have a lot more literal of a moment, ultimately, what I came to in my compositional, understanding of this is that this is not a singular experience. This is a dynamic space that you're going to see multiple times, whether on a vehicle, so it's not like you got one shot at this. Giving just enough information at your first experience, either the southern terminus heading north, allows people to kind of see just a little bit of a tidbit that when you get to the far end and it's the flatter side because we're hugging that sight line, you've already enough of a context that you're trying to piece it together. And that you then, maybe circle around and take a look at it again, right? It makes you kind of want to come back and see this, multiple times. It's not like an individual experience. I think one of the things that I really appreciate about my sculpture on Cuthbert Street is that everybody takes a dynamite photo of the cardinal viewpoint, but I sculpted every single corner of that composition so you could take a photo of it from on top of the garage, from inside the hotel, from on the bridge. And I'm just like, come on guys, explore that, explore everything. I don't want this to be one viewpoint because that doesn't speak to this space. This space is something that is constantly evolving, constantly changing. A year or two, when they start the next median, this still has to be something that is, not one and done, that people want to keep coming back to. So I'm really challenging the public audience with this one. And I believe in the Philadelphia arts communities and the wider public's ability to consume something like this. It's challenging. It's not easy. It's not plop art. It's not a big, simple thing.
Understood.
Sorry, I'll keep going.
Please, Carmen?
Actually, this is more away from the art specific. Do you have an understanding, I mean, how is the sun and the sun reflection going to operate with this sculpture? And is it going to be a problem with, with reflection and people driving by it? Because if that is the case, then, creating not all of those perforations of the white spaces, but a few perforations might help. Anyway, and, maybe rethinking it a little bit might help reduce that. So is there has there been an understanding or a study that looks at that?
Yeah, and so these are, I'll leave this up for a second, then I'll go back to another render, but, as you can see, this is, north on your right-hand side and south on the left-hand side. So as the sun arcs across this from east to west, as the sun is arcing across this way, you're not getting a flat, big reflection panel in any orientation that faces vehicular traffic. Like there's no blind spot. There's no blinding reflection spot because, this big flat plane is actually facing away from the sun. So in that case, it wouldn't reflect towards oncoming traffic facing this way. It's actually kind of on the axis where it would pass across it. So you're getting the topography lines only. And same thing, this is the sun is at most going to be coming across this way. It's not going to be reflecting off to this vehicular traffic as it's heading south. So and then on the north side, we're buffered by the tree canopy. So there's no opportunity there for sun to really hit that. But I think that's why this color needs to be so vibrant, right? Because if it's a muted, tone, it's going to get lost. It'll absorb too much, shadow and light. And to come back to these perforations, this makes a great two-dimensional image, right? These lines look beautiful as like a print, as like a graphic. They don't translate to three-dimensional form really well. What's really interesting about this is those lines delineate three-dimensional form. Like your eye sees that and it kind of reads that form. But I've been trying for years to make this three-dimensional. And I keep coming back to this is a two-dimensional shape. I make prints of this. I make imagery, all kind of graphic images, and it works like that. I think this is good to describe the form on this screen. But the construction of this as a linear kind of thing would be so flimsy. I would really be concerned about allowing a public to even come near that because they would just break it, bend it. And so the plate construction gives a much more rigid shape, a form for a public. I'm sorry, so that's all 3/16 quarter-inch steel and powder coated with the 1028. I don't know if I glossed over that, but similar construction.
Yeah. Well,
the same. I didn't bring the sample this time because I figured I bring it every time and it's just redundant. But it's that same thickness, 3/16.
yeah, Miguel, I think we should see the material, and because the only pictures that I see here, it doesn't, my eyes doesn't, like right there, I do not see the image. If there's a way you can bring it back to like on different views, like right now I still don't see the image. It's just, mop up that I just see a yellow thing, you know what I mean? It's very hard for me to look at it, let's put it this way. I like it when I see the image, the diagram as like there, but I do not see it. How can you put it and then a view on different angles on the corners, if that's possible?
I agree, especially something that's meant to be seen in space and time, to be able to move around it, even if it's at a small scale, it would be very helpful. So
Okay,
a small mock-up would be great.
a small scale mock-up of these pieces.
So, is it, okay to do concept review, approval?
So moved.
Okay, second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, yeah, so let's see if we can bring in the materials and a little structure and little diagram on each corners to see how it looks, would be great. Yes. If he wishes to do something, that'd be great too, that's not a problem. So we have a second, roll call.
This is for conceptual approval. I'm gonna call you individually by name. Commissioner Marnie,
Approved.
Commissioner Matthew,
Yeah, I was gonna say approved, but like, should we add the request for when he comes back for final to bring a sample, like a painted sample? Okay, just
And
want to say.
views of
And
the
views
things and how
of the different views of closer up. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
The mock-up would.
The mock-up, that's what I'm saying, yeah, that's right, thank you.
okay. Just trying to make sure what we're approving for concept and what to expect for final. But yeah, approved. So if you can read that out at the end, Ian, that'd be great.
Commissioner Troy,
Approved. I just want to clarify, the mock-up doesn't necessarily have to be made of the actual material.
Correct.
It
Yeah.
can be corrugated, whatever you want to make the mock-up of. It's just
Mhm.
to be able to see something in 3 dimensions and sort of move it around and.
Yeah, understood.
What scale? Or how big? Hmm?
I don't know.
Your choice.
It's okay.
Commissioner James,
Honorably approved.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rebecca,
Approved.
Commissioner Carmen,
Approved.
and Rayed.
Happily approved.
Okay, and that'll be a conceptual approval, and then when we return for final, there'll be a sample and a small scale 3D mock-up. Okay,
All right, this brings us,
July.
And some additional
Yeah,
drawings with
uh,
details. Right,
yeah.
we also requested some additional drawings with details.
Okay, so, our next meeting now comes to July 8th. So I hope I get to see every one of you again. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you,
see ya.
commissioners.
Thanks, Miguel.